Joining me right now is a fellow who has been, since the very first time I had him on the program many years ago, a breath of fresh air. A lot of people are fans of Mike Gill's. In 2010, the most hated man in racing turned out to be a report ESPN did, and we'll talk about that and other things with my good pal, Mike Gill. Good morning, Mike.
Hi, Roger.
Listen, Mike, you've been keeping it low profile. I want to go back to remind the listeners that don't remember. In 2005, you took down the Eclipse Award, but you were really honest about it. You said it was probably a makeup for the huge oversight in 2004, and you told me earlier maybe 2003 and 2004.
Right, that's how I saw it. But and I heard that Mr. Melnick was sick, and that was the year that I'd won, and I really do think that he should have won it that year.
For certain, you had it coming. You did an awful lot of winning, and you remind everyone always that your percentage was nothing out of the ordinary, that a lot of the horses that you claimed and dropped down didn't necessarily show a profit. But you have I think you're the only guy out there that ever has accusers and no positive tests. Now, you did say, you owned up to this, that I think it was 1993 or something, or 2003. It was many years ago. You did
94.
94. You did get a bad test, didn't you?
How about this? I had to fire my trainer. I didn't have a trainer. It was the very first horse I ever ran. Came back with a bad test. And I fired him that morning, so it was that trainer's horse. But what was really going on, and it's always been an issue for me, is me fighting corruption in thoroughbred racing. They had a HPPA union there that they were selling out its membership, telling them year-round racing if they got slot machines. The truth is, I sat in those meetings. It was going to be a 6-week meet. When I came forwards and wouldn't shut up, and I told people and reported to the Globe, they put a gun to my head, and I still wouldn't shut up. The next day, my first horse, bad test.
Yeah. Did they ever figure out what did you do? Did you serve any time, or did you pay a fine? What was the deal? What was the disposition of that case?
There was there was one that they kicked me out of racing for a couple of years. That was it. They knew what it was. It was a clenbuterol overage. Clenbuterol, not overage. They didn't have clenbuterol. They spiked the horse, and they know they did. Because I wouldn't go and cover up what I've uncovered with the union. See, corruption in horse racing has been rampant, but the thing that blew up corruption, you could fight this. It's when corporate America, the casinos of the world, united with the corrupt, that showed them wire services and offshore gaming. The same $5,000 horse at Penn National where you couldn't bet $200, and today you can't bet $200. What if they could bet $10,000 at 10-1? Do you think it might just tempt the corrupt who was doing it for crumbs before? That's what's going on. And you know what they're doing with this great wealth? They're buying your politicians and your judges and your courts. Now, I haven't disappeared. If you watch stateofcorruption.org, you see me pulling them together. My attack on Penn National is because they are organized crime, and they have brought these officials. The mayor of Harrisburg, for 32 years, gets arrested. They turn around and have the AG, which I believe is honest, Catherine Kane, just get kicked out. You know why? She leaked about the corruption. This thing's about to fall apart. The FBI's covering this up. They know. Listen, I haven't been wrong yet. One time. Now tell me if you still think I'm crazy, because I'm telling you now, there's been arrests last night that you haven't even heard yet. The compromise is they don't want to get into the politicians. They don't want to get into Penn National. Penn National is 93% of it is owned by the casinos. Wynn Casino, who bought land in Boston to build a casino, you know what the holdup was? Because I caught wires from Penn National to the Costa Nostra of New England, Not my words, the Boston Globe. They were purchasing it from Wynn. Wynn, who owns 30% of Penn National. See? There's mob connections here. Do you want them controlling your judges and courts? That's what's at stake here. It's horse racing in the life and death of it. But it goes into your courts. It goes into these law firms and the insurers. We've just got turned out, inside out, by the business world. Why do you think you've seen all this corruption? And no one goes to jail. And who's grown out of our 8 years of recession? The casino world.
Well,
that's
Mike,
why I do what I do.
Well, let me back this up just a little bit, okay? You get a feeling. Lenny Shulman's on the line with us, by the way, and he had the same sort of opinion that every time you've been questioned or asked about it, you've been straight up, and obviously you're not hiding anything. But how do you go from a guy that 10 years ago was one of the dominant owners in the game, certainly when they talked claiming, your name, Mike Gill, was going to be the next thing discussed within 10 minutes. How do you go to the extreme where you want to expose these guys more than you want to win 2 or 3 races a day? What makes that happen?
Well, let's not forget, I came from a family that had nothing. We looked for change to buy a pound of bologna. I went to be a priest for 5 years. So you know what? Insight made me a wealthy man. But I haven't lost the principles, which seems to be rare here. I turned around, you want to know, I went from that peak, and I risked everything, and I risk everything today because there's something greater than money. It's each and every one of us. It's the corruption in there. We send young men and women off to war to risk their lives. Why are we any better? Why aren't we hold the same responsibility they hold? So I had no choice. The information I knew and what they were doing was beyond myself. So I had to make that decision. Trust me, I've lived in 10 years of hell, but I'm prepared to live in another 10 years. I'll get it done. You watch.
Well,
think about where we
Mike,
are now and the unbelievableness of what's happening. And just 5 years ago, they were all thinking this was crazy when I was saying it.
But Mike, hold on a second. If you were sitting out there and someone was spewing this, you'd think it was a bunch of nonsense. Let's face it. You went from 0 to 60, in 0.9 seconds. It was just boom. It was over. And they're hit with all of these things. The reason that to me it's been an amazing ride was there were times, Mike, where I thought, now he stepped into the realm of the Twilight Zone. Now I think my buddy Mike has lost it. And then a year later, 2 years later, the very guys you were talking about get arrested for things you don't see around the racetrack. You don't see, for example, someone was arrested last night back there. Fill us in. Who got arrested and what was the story with that?
Todd Beatty. He's one of the 4 that just got indicted. You're going to hear a couple more in the next couple days. See, the thing that you have to remember, why I became enemy number 1, I was running in more races than anyone in the country. So when I would go to these racetracks, if they were cheating and they were betting money offshore, do you think the guy who would insist on his jockey running fairly wasn't the enemy? They came to me many times to join the club, but I refused. That's why they were refusing and claiming, and they were saying I was cheating and claiming because I was buying the horse they were cheating with, which is why Sam Abbey kicked me out of Delaware, and I said it then, which is why in Saratoga they came up with a bad test. They couldn't have me running it straight. There's the difference. And when you see in Penn National, that's exactly what happened.
Stop for a second, Mike, because there's so much along the way we're not getting filled in about. When all of this was going on, your horses were involved. Lenny, I hope you're still there with me because I know you knew the story while it was happening. Remember, Mike, toward the end when he decided he would get out, because the jockeys weren't willing to ride his horses. They were too sore according to them. 3 and 4 days later, the same horses appeared in the box with those very same jockeys. Now, either those trainers are miracle workers and got them sound right away, or the conspiracy that Mike talks about really existed to a level that few people could believe.
That's exactly what happened. They were saying they weren't too sore. For instance, you seen the ESPN, and they shown the horse breaking down and 5 horses falling behind it. How about I wasn't even in the race? That's right. Didn't have a horse in the race. But you had to buy that story if they couldn't have you listen that it was a gambling syndicate. Those jockeys are part of it. And here's this. Dana Whitney, he's indicted. How's that? Willie Otero, he's indicted right now. See?
These were the very guys. These are the very guys, Mike, that you pointed the finger at. That was actually believable. It wasn't a long stretch to get to that point where people could see what had happened. The thing was, as I told you, you started square one was square 20. There was nothing filling in what led up to all this. So here you are, the Mike Gill, 10 years ago, winning, record numbers of races, finally picking up that Eclipse Award, which you never even said to me. Was that at any time, was that a goal of yours? Was it something you wanted more than anything on earth, was to win that Eclipse? Because it seemed at the time pretty important. Again, maybe that's just what's fair or what's right.
Roger, dead on. I paid for the trophy. Get it? I never did it for the money. I did it to be a champion. Look what I'm saying. They wrote a book and they interviewed me when I had 3 horses, broke down horses at Suffolk Downs. They asked me, what are you going to be? I said, I'm going to be the world champion. They laughed. The book was written by the announcer over there. See? But I became the world champion. When I seen this too, I played for the trophy. The trophy here is the people and turn racing around. That's the trophy I play for. I spent $51 million in 10 years. What's my motivation? Money? And here's this. Crazy? How about I went from being homeless to the largest brokerage firm in the country and a person who has won more races than anybody who's ever lived? Maybe I had a little insight. Maybe I brought something to the table. But rather than choosing to be in that world of wealth, I put everything on the line, including my own freedom with these people and life and my children's lives that you can see have been threatened on the Internet, to tell you the truth.
Mike, let me just say one thing. We're going to make this an ongoing story throughout the rest of the year. I wish only for your good health. I have to end the interview by saying this. I know the love you have for your kids. I understand you taking a personal risk if this is really what you believe in. What's it done to your relationship with your kids, Mike? They're bright kids. They must be looking at this going, Dad, what is going on here?
Well, I told briefly, I had my youngest son, who's now 18, but there's a time when this came out, he was 8 years old. And he asked me, and he was my track buddy. None of my other children liked the races. He'd go to the track with me. We'd sit in the track kitchen. We'd be sitting with the jockeys. I mean, going through the barn. He loved it. He watched the most hated man in racing, and he called me, and he goes, Dad, I thought you were one of the good guys. So you know what my relationship with my children is? I'm going to show each and every one of my children that their father was the good guy. And as unbelievable as that's to see, the most hated man in racing, I'm going to prove them that their father was the most honest man. So that's my relationship. I show my children. I don't talk about it. I'm going to have them see it.
And as everything comes to fruition, all of the things you said were going to happen, people all around are going to say, I told you that Mike Gill knew what he was talking about, but you heard it here. Mike, join us next weekend in the coming weeks. Fill us in with the stories that are going on and tell us what's coming next. We'll enjoy it. You have a lot of fans out there that believe what you say. So please don't let that side weigh you down and think they're winning, because I know they're in for a big, long fight. I
don't quit, Roger. they'll quit. I mean, I love horse racing. You know why? Because it's hard. I fell in love with horse racing with Secretary. I fell in love with the heart of horse racing and the thing. And you know what? It's what I can't lose and refuse to. And that's what made me a champion. It's going to make me the same person that sticks to this to the end, and we turn around and change racing maybe forever and for the best. And we get into the corruption in our states and in our governments and maybe change that too.
So, Mike, thanks for joining us now. We'll talk to you next week, the week after. Stay in touch.
Thanks, Roger. Bye.
All the best. Mike Gill joined us. 2005, he won the Eclipse Award as a leading owner. He's been on a crusade, even if it's a one-man crusade. And we'll get into things like who's putting up the money for all this? What's it costing? It's not just what it costs to do it. What about the business you may be losing in other things? And that relationship that has been strained somewhat with the children, the relationship with the wife was strained beyond, well, I guess beyond repair. So it's cost quite a lot. So when you read about the things that Mike Gill predicted and you think back 5 years ago when everyone said, oh, this guy's he's just a nut job. Well, maybe he's not so nuts after all. All right, listen, we've got to get to a couple things. First of all, I've got to tell you about Western Bagel. Why? Because that's what I do. Western Bagel, they change with the times. You know, when people get on these diets, well, guess what? They research it, they look into it, they try to stay state of the art. Why? Well, listen, you don't get where they got for nothing. Really, it's just a fine family-run business. Their slogan guy, you know, Bagel Brad, he's got a weekly deal. You can look into that. They're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. But you want a good bagel, a fresh bagel? You want a pizza bagel? You want a blueberry bagel? Western Bagel is your answer. You get a $5 rewards card. Ask the store clerk for details. Whatever you spend, obviously you get 5% back. And don't forget about their new, I guess it's not new, we've been talking about it for a couple months, the sausage egg a la bagel sandwich. Boy, one would look good right now if only Lenny would deliver like he should. All right, now, a couple things. John Hardoon will be here shortly. We'll take a quick 2-minute break. We'll talk about, don't forget, American Pharoah might be working as you're listening to this radio show. Lafitte Pinkai Jr. Award to Victor Espinoza today. I'm really upset about this. And how about Naira's Bugler? We'll have a story and the real story right after this. Don't touch the dial. Sunday edition of the Roger Stein Show continues right after this.
I'm coming. I'll go my way to you, lover. If I get cold, you better be my cover. No need to worry, 'cause I'm here. No need to suffer, woman, 'cause I'm here. Yeah, yeah, hold on. I'm coming. Hold on. I'm coming. Hold on.
Angels Radio.
AM 830.
You've heard me say for years that it pays to own and breed Calbreds. Right now, I'm going to tell you a little about it. The Calbred Incentive Fund lays out $15.5 million that's available to restricted wild Calbreds and Cal-sired runners. The money goes to breeders, owners, and stallion owners. In addition to that, there's bonus money available to Calbred maiden allowance winners, and that program was so successful that they actually had to drop it from $20,000 to $17,500. But not too bad, because you make all this money, and then on top of it, a check arrives in 30 to 60 days for $17,500 if you win a straight maiden race in Southern California, and a $10,000 bonus in Northern California. This program has been especially successful, making Calbreds more valuable than ever before. It includes prices for yearlings and 2-year-olds in the sales. The Golden State Series has also boosted the value of Calbreds. There's 36 stakes with purses of over $5 million. That's funded by the Thoroughbred Owners of California, California Marketing Committee, fee, the stallion registration fees, and nominations of 2-year-olds. If you want more information, visit ctba.com. Read all about the Calbred Incentive Program, as well as the benefits of joining the CTBA member. To be a member, not only you get a stallion directory, the industry directory, discount for full registrations, but you get 2 passes that are good for every track in the state of California. 2 clubhouse passes for the whole year. I guess you actually look at it, it's a bargain just based on that. So check them out at ctba.com or call the offices at 626-445-7800. That number again, 626-445-7800. Right across the street from Santa Anita.
Where the turf meets the surf, down in Old Del Mar. Take a plane, take a train, take a car. There's that smile on every face, and a winner in each race. Where the turf meets the surf at Del Mar.
On Saturday, August 22nd, don't miss our biggest race day of the season. It's the $1 million TVG Pacific Classic. Be there as top thoroughbreds battle for Del Mar's biggest payout. It's your chance to see the most magnificent athletes in racing. This Saturday, August 22nd at Del Mar. Presented by TVG.
Where the turf meets the surf at Del Mar.
Del Mar. Cool as ever.
Remain free, 'cause I'm the one and only love maker. No girl can hold me longer than that. If you got something else on your mind, listen, baby, don't you waste your time.
And welcome back, Sunday edition of the Roger Stein Show. Don't forget, at Del Mar today, Pick 6 carryover, $97,933. Yeah, let's call it $100,000. You think they're not going to take me out and sue me for being off by $2,067, are they? I don't think so. But anyway, there's a super high 5 carryover as well, $20,911. So have some fun out at Del Mar today. Joining us now, along with Lenny Shulman, is our good pal John Hardoon back at Saratoga. John Boy, what's happening?
Good morning, Roger. Beautiful day here. Sun is shining. No humidity. 75 degrees. Can I get a job as a weatherman?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's brag about that, John. You had a lot to do with covering that. By the way, you see we get emails from time to time from people that are fans. Every once in a while we get one from guys in Florida that smell like fish heads. But it's kind of funny when it happens because I go back and forth. I get emails from guys that are, retarded and have, real emotional problems. And I think of that movie Talk Radio, I think it was, with Eric Bogosian or whatever his name was. It's kind of funny that there's that many people out there that either think they know you or come with this kind of stuff. But John, before we get to your handicap, my man Bob Baffert's on the phone, and I can't believe it, but I guess American Pharoah either worked or is about to work. Good morning, Bob.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. Listen, I don't know if it's already the deed is done or is it coming up, because I know you were sort of antsy about him working. Where are you? Walkie-talkie in hand?
No, I'm back at the bar watching it cool out. We're just here with we had about 100 people at the bar, but they've all sparse. They watched him take a bath and he left. They had a lot of people out there. It's pretty cool.
And Bob, it's kind of strange, but when I talked to you about coming on while he was working, you said, I don't know. I get kind of excited when he works. Have you ever had a horse before this that did that to you, Bob? Was there ever a time where you sort of had to shift into new ground because he's that important?
Anytime we work horses for those big races or the classics or anything, we always, you start getting a little bit. You get a few butterflies, get a little bit nervous and stuff. But with him, everybody's there was a lot of people out there watching, and so it wasn't like a really serious work. I just cruised him around there, so he looked great.
How fast did he go?
He went a minute. He left the half, went a minute, 47.4 minute out in 13 and 1. So it was, but he did it with his ears. You know how he goes with his ears forward. Like, looks like he's galloping.
He is galloping. Bob, you know, when we talk, you tell me things like you always dream about having a Secretariat or a Seattle Slew, and early on you thought you just might have one. This horse is very special. I want to know something more important. What does Bob Baffert do the day he signs his walking papers and decides to really play around at stud? What do you do? Look for one better than him?
Well, we're trying to do that right now. I mean, I've already, you know, I know he's leaving, so I am constantly, you know, we're trying to, hopefully we'll have something close to him, you know, half as good as him, whatever, but we never give up. I mean, we're always searching. We have a lot of young horses we're trying to develop here, so training Pharoah is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to train him now.
Well, let's talk about the Travers. How soon after his last race did you decide that the Travers was probably the point?
Well, the Travers is never. It's there. It's an option. It's just been an option. You know, if how he's training and how he's worked. You have to work. You know, next week I'll let him work a little bit. We'll get more serious work into him. And so today's work was just a spin around the track just to see his energy level, how he went. But I won't make that call till after his next work.
Okay, you won't, Bob, I'll take you at your word, but what happens now? The people at NYRA, they've sold 50,000 tickets. You think he had something to do with the sale of most of those?
Well, I think the Travers is always a big race. They always have like 50,000 people there. This has always been a very historic, important race. So I don't know. He might have, you know, people probably bought tickets just in case he shows up or whatever. But that's not gonna. I don't feel any outside pressure from that. I'm not gonna go to. They sold a bunch of tickets. I'm gonna go if he's doing well.
All right. Whose call is this ultimately? Is it Mr. Zayat's call, or is it Bob Baffert's call?
I think there's a number of us involved there. Martin Garcia part of the call. He works the horse. We got Mr. Zayat. He, you know, he's always told me, let's just keep going, run him when he's ready. So, and his son. So we're not really, it's going to be a call that the horse will let us know. It's basically Pharoah's call.
What about if you had to make a decision today? Do you run in the Travers?
Today, I wouldn't even make that yet. We're still a couple weeks out, so a lot can change between now and then. So I'm not. That's the only question I get asked: where is he going to go next? Where is he going to go next? And if he didn't run there, then he goes to Park. So we're just, you know, you never know how much the last race took out of him, and that's what that. Gave him that little spin today, and he was very relaxed, and there wasn't very many horses on the track, so he started out a little slow, went off 12-2, and he was having a good time, had his ears up. People were clapping when he came down the stretch and went a minute on this heavy track like nothing, so it looked like he was just galloping.
And Bob, tell me this. You understand why they're asking you where he's going. It's important. You understand.
It's the only question that they can ask me.
No, there's others, Bob. I'll tell you, there are others, and here's one for you. Have we seen the best of American Pharoah?
Well, we probably haven't, you know.
You know if you've gotten to the bottom of him. you know for sure. Talk about the Belmont for a second. Victor let him open up a little bit. But I say a little bit, not as a particular caveat to the ease of the performance, but the truth was, if you'd have said to Victor, I want you down on your belly, inside the 8th pole, he might have won by 15 lengths or more. Do you dispute that?
Yeah, but I think Victor's done a very good job of saving the horse, not really bottoming him out. So I think that's probably one of the reasons he's kept his form, because he's ridden with so much, confidence that he's not wasting it at the end.
Well, that's why Lenny Shulman and John Hardoon and myself, we can sit and talk about it, because the truth is, you've seen about 80% of what American Pharoah's got. Now, I know you may put the number at 70 or 90, but that's the great part of horse racing. We can argue just the way we would about who's a better quarterback or who's a bigger winner or whatever. But American Pharoah, there's something untapped. There is definitely a little bit more than we've seen. And I'll tell you the truth, Bob, I think it shakes you up to talk about it, because even you're somebody who's a fan of this horse. I mean, let's face it. He's done the things with the greatest of ease, and it makes you think that greater things may be around the corner. And we certainly hope so.
Well, my job is just keep him undefeated. I want to make sure that when I send him up there, he's at his best. If he's at his best, he's going to be hard to beat. So, but at the end, there's always they always somehow they always get beat. But my job is just I'm really enjoying it, and we're all enjoying it, and we've become so emotionally attached to this horse, it makes it a little bit difficult, because he's become such a part of the family, and he's just when he sees us, he nickers, and he wants to eat carrots, and he just wants people to rub his head. He's just become such a star that at the same time I want to make sure that I know the horse pretty well, and we're not going to send him up there just to send him up there. So because some track wants him or whatever, we're going to send him up there because we feel that he's at his best, and he's going to perform because he really enjoys running. He loves to run. As long as he is enjoying it, the minute I see those ears, he's galloping, and those ears aren't forward, that's it. We pull the plug on him. So right now, what I saw today, he's hitting on all cylinders, moving freely, smooth. So, I liked what I saw today, that the party's continued.
And he's still moving forward. All right, Bob, before I let you go, we go away from American Pharoah and away from the Baffert barn. Actually, I should ask you if you have something in today that the listeners love to bet on. They think you're the greatest tout in the world. So what about anything? Do you have anything in today that I didn't pick up in the PPs?
Today I wish I would have talked to you yesterday. I liked those horses yesterday that won. But really, I have that 2-year-old Escape. I think she's going to be okay, but she's not very quick. I think she'll need the race. And then I like that. I had 2 horses in the allowance race, but I just heard that the Pipey, I got to beat the Pipey. I've had Cat Burglar and Caminito. They're, those horses have been working well. So, they're, maybe that race, but it's just not it's been sort of a tough meet, because the track is, it's a very heavy track this year, so it's very demanding. So,
but Bob, you're their advisor. They're not going to put their money down unless they get the push from you. So which one of those 2 would you put your money on?
Martin, are we got any races today? Let me ask Martin Garcia. He's the worst talent. We have a shot today? Which one? Caminito? That's it? No Cat Burglar? You worked them both. What do you think? He likes Caminito better than Cat Burglar. right there. He says Camelina, but I heard the rail horse is supposed to be real tough, the Mike Pipe. So.
The Pipey's supposed to be tough. All right, this is the way it goes. Everybody thinks.
I hear all this stuff,
Yeah, I know.
I can't give your guys a solid. I don't want one thing I don't want your listeners to lose any money. So they're maybes.
Okay, that's fair enough. Bob, the question I wanted to ask you before we signed you off is, you're a fan of racing. You're a fan of the game. You've often said to me that you'd like other people to experience that which you've been lucky enough and good enough to experience. How much did it hurt you to watch what's happened with California Chrome, just as a fan of the game? I mean, I know you're out of that picture, but it had to bother you some to watch what's happened, Art Sherman and everything.
I don't think it's that bad. I think Art is, he's going to get the horse back. Things are working out, but it was anytime in this business when you're new in the business, your first horse turns out to be a Kentucky Derby winner, and you haven't been through all the the ups and downs we can have in this game. So you get a good horse like that, and you think that you're invincible, and you think, and then things go bad. That's when you really realize, wow, what happened there. But I think California Chrome gave everybody a big lift last year, especially in California, and I had a hard act to following Art Sherman, because he was just, he's such a sweetheart, such a nice guy, and so, I think California, these two horses kept California in the limelight, and if you look at Pharoah's breeding, he's got California pedigree on the bottom there, so I think California's been really boosted by these two great horses.
Bob, keep them going great. Next week you'll finalize your plan. I'm sure you'll be questioning where you're running right up until post time, but I know it'll be at
if he gets
Travers.
on the plane. He has to get if he gets on the plane, that's the key.
He's going to the Travers. And you checked out his spot where he's going to be stabled, so we know you got all the bases covered. Bob, all the best. Thanks for taking time out with us.
Thank you.
All right. Bob Baffert's been our guest, obviously. He didn't give you anything solid to bet on, so please don't send me emails if one of those horses lose and you say it sounded like that's the one he liked. John Hardoon, step right up. Saratoga, race 7. John, take it away.
Okay, Roger. 7th race today at Saratoga, 1.8 miles on the turf, and I like the number 3 horse in here, Chiz Town. This is a 3-year-old colt from the Ian Wilkes barn. Manny Franco aboard to ride. He's listed at 6-1 on the morning line. 5 starts this year. Each race better than the previous one. Number 3, Chiz Town, wins today's 7th race out at Saratoga.
JONHARDOON. You give him the details, John.
3 best plays, $10. Full card, $25.
All right. Lenny, John, all I can say is he's Travers bound. I know I heard what you heard. Bob Baffert does care what the fans think. But the reality
Baffert with
here
dancing shoes. This was a first.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. And I'll tell you another first. My pal and co-host Lenny Shulman, who, look, when you have a guy like Bob Baffert, and it could be any number of people. Lenny's had a close association with many horsemen. They tell you things that are off the record. And what does off the record mean? Well, if you're hosting a radio show or doing a column every week, off the record has to mean it's something you don't repeat. Now, does that make you a liar? Does that make you someone who is withholding information? Or to get their confidence, you have to have that relationship or it doesn't work. Lenny, am I right or wrong?
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you there are people in this sport who have nobody's confidence because they have violated that trust several times. But, yeah, off the record means you can't use it using that person as your source. Now, it doesn't prevent you from finding that information out from another source or from some other way and using it, if you can develop another source for it. But yes, that is a big no-no. You only have one reputation in this life, and there's two ways you can go about it. You can screw people, or you can do the right thing and abide by your word when you give it, and you go on from there.
Lenny, you only get one shot. Once you screw up, but they're not coming back to you.
You're not talking to that guy. I guarantee you ain't getting information out of that person again.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that is for sure. But, there's something. It's very easy to give your word. The hard part is keeping it. And, what John said is so ridiculously understated because, John, you're 100% right. It's just once. It's one time. You don't get a chance to say to the guy, yes, I know I screwed up, but I won't do it again. I have a saying that people get a kick out of. If I invite someone over for dinner and they steal my silverware, I don't invite them over again and use plastic. I just don't invite them. It's pretty clear what you're dealing with, right? I mean, this is the way things work. And look, even the way it's going now, Baffert's in a position to make one jurisdiction very happy and the others disappointed. But they've got to feel going into it that they've got a chance. The people at Parks are saying, under their breath, stub your toe. Stub your toe. Get a cough. Yeah, get a fever for a couple of days. Now, John, one of the things we got to do is this Lafitte Pinkai Jr. Award, people are laughing. They think, oh, you're kidding. I'm not kidding. I mean, Victor Espinoza deserves every award a guy could get. But I'm friends with Lafitte for all these years. And believe me, the year he had where he needed me 5 times a day, it was incredible. And guess what? No award for me. He tells me I'm his best friend. He couldn't do without me. Meanwhile, he's giving the award to everybody else in racing.
Roger, he's not doing it all for you.
He's definitely not doing it all for me. And you'd think he could pronounce the G in my name after all this time. But look, on a serious note, it's a prestigious award because it's attached to a great career of a great champion. And Victor does deserve it. And he has done a whole lot for racing. I get a kick out of the people who make it into something it's not. Victor's willing to share. He doesn't just talk about it. He donates his time and his money for a hospital involved with children. I don't know what else you could say about him. Now tomorrow he'll get caught for Grand Theft Auto, and I'll look like an idiot for talking about the guy. But basically get what I'm talking about. I took a 15-second break I didn't know about. John, you told the story to me earlier about the bugler at NYRA. Sam the bugler got a 22-day suspension with pay for what was the call, John? What was the reason?
Well, what I heard is that he had a little altercation with Mike Smith last Saturday after that feature race, and rumor has it he downed one or two too many, and it wasn't really responsible.
Let me just tell you what Mike Smith said, okay? I called Mike right after I spoke to you. He said, no, I know Sam. No, that's absolutely not true. He said, you call NYRA and you ask who told anybody that that's the story, because I didn't even see Sam that day he was there. So whoever gave you that story, he said that's a total fabrication. Now,
well, he got 22 days for something, Roger.
Yeah, I don't listen. I don't know what it was, but maybe there's somebody else there named Smith. I don't know. All I can say is, all I can tell you, John, is if a guy like that would say it didn't happen and it comes out in a month that it did, that won't look good.
No, I believe it. I believe Mike Smith. That's just a story going around.
I understand. And as an example, Ephraim Zayat, who owns American Pharoah, there's no question about the sale of the breeding rights of American Pharoah. You'll find out, you meaning the listeners, will find out that it's before the Derby that it was done. that the deal was done. If not, if the money didn't change hands, it was done in principle. And if that wasn't the case, you'll find out. The amounts, you will find out. I can tell you this. No one sells a horse for what he sold American Pharoah, sees what happened and says, well, that's not a big deal. We're not talking about a condo you have in Long Beach that you get $229,000 for and find out that the guy sold it for $240, and you go, well, it's $11,000 I left on the table. We're not talking about $11,000 here. We're not talking about $11 million here. We're talking about some serious money. All right, I've told you what's going on, but give us a minute. Let Del Mar tell you what's going on. The Pick Six carryover, $97,933. They couldn't tell you about that, but I'm telling you now. And the Super High Five carryover is $20,911. So give us 60 seconds. Let Del Mar tell you what's going on, and we'll be back after this on the Roger Stein Show for a Sunday morning.
Some good old loving, and I got some in store. When I get through pouring it on you, you got to come back for more. Boy, may come down by the dozen.
Angels Radio.
AM 830.
Where the turf meets the surf, down in old Del Mar. Take a plane, take a train, take a car. There's a smile on every face, and a winner in each race. Where the turf meets the surf.
On Saturday, August 22nd, don't miss our biggest race day of the season. It's the $1 million TVG Pacific Classic. Be there as top thoroughbreds battle for Del Mar's biggest payout. It's your chance to see the most magnificent athletes in racing. This Saturday, August 22nd at Del Mar. Presented by TVG.
Where the turf meets the surf at Del Mar.
Del Mar. Cool as ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gill.
No. This is not Tom Jones. Nope. Just the music of Tom Jones from time to time. Welcome back. Before we go anywhere, Jonathan Hardoon's going to step right up and tell us who we're going to play in Del Mar's third race. John Boy, take it away.
Well, Baffert didn't want to give you any help, but I'll give you help in the third. I like the number 6 horse in here, Raise the Secret. This is a 5-year-old from the Mark Latbon, Rafael Verano aboard to ride. He's listed at 4-1 on the morning line. Draw a line through his last race out at Los Al, going a distance. Back to a sprint today where he does his best running. I like number 6, Raise the Secret, to win today's third.
They had some great racing around the country. By the way, if we're around, Lenny, could you get me one with just anchovies and pepperoni?
No anchovies, Roger. I'm sorry.
All right, I understand. That's okay. I wanted to mention to you guys, my pal Janine Jones sends me from time to time an update, and I like her stuff because, number one, she's got a great sense of humor, but number two, it's always interesting. TVG makes it impossible for people who want to play with them. I don't get a few things they do. Number one, the idea is you want to have people who want to bet on your site. And then if you go past that, they make it impossible for people. If they don't have the right kind of phone, they can't bet with them. They changed all these different rules. They made it clear to the talent that work there that they're trying to do as much as they can and handle. So the thing to do is to get guys who play tickets. We're going to single in here, but then we're going to go 6 by 12 by 9 by 8. And then when they lose those, they've got reasons that you cannot believe. They never come out and say, well, my horses ran too slow. I love their comments. I love the things they say. Like this, it's a win-win situation, good for both parties. Oh, they have a win-win situation that's only good for one party? Where does that take place? These guys, I don't know if they have a producer or he's not concerned with what they talk about. They got one kid who, he's not a kid, but he's a big doofus-looking guy, who went and wrestled another guy and came up sporting wood. But the jockey club won't let me name a horse sporting wood. Go and figure. What did they think I was talking about? This wasn't Donald Trump talking about where this reporter was bleeding from. Sporting wood, is that so bad, Lenny? Are they trying to imply I was referring to something else?
Maybe if it was WOULD, you may have gotten away with it there, Roger.
Don't forget, I came up with urination, and they put that through. So I guess I can't get anything through from then on. All right, look, Mike Gill was kind enough to join us. We'll talk to him next weekend or the weekend after. Don't forget today at Del Mar, Pick 6 carryover, 97,933, 20,911 in the Super High Five. For Lenny Shulman and John Hardoon, I am and always will be Roger Stein. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for Mike Willman. Bye-bye.
The preceding was a paid program. Opinions expressed are those of the program sponsors and not necessarily the views of AM 830 KLAA, its owners, or management. Any and all on-air promotions broadcast during paid programming are the sole responsibility of the show owner and not the responsibility of AM 830 KLAA.